23% of the population supported a name change, and it's likely only a small percentage of that 23% were Native American. Yeah, absolutely. Now, here's why this is important. It's not because I'm not even going to talk about whether it's racist or not. Maybe it is racist. Maybe it is. Maybe it's highly racist. Maybe it should be changed. All right? You didn't expect me to say that, but here's what I'm going to tell you. No one actually cares. You see? But when they make it a big story, oh, the Redskins, it's so racist, and the media, which is a huge weird irony, just it's like all these white people actually talking about how racist other white people are and how Native Americans are offended. White people talking about how Native Americans are so offended. That's actually racist to just talk about, oh, the poor Native Americans. That is racism. And to turn it up and just churn and churn and churn and churn and churn. Notice how political correctness, it's like there's no actual ammunition. There's no one actually cares about anything that's going on, that they make the number one thing. And then they just make it number one, like, people care about this. This is the biggest problem right now. These bathrooms, oh my God, everyone cares so much. And then the hype train builds. Still, people don't really care, but they feel like they have to act like they do, or else they're bad people, because the media is like, oh my God, the Redskins, we need to like crucify whoever made that. And if you say, who cares, then you're bad. Oh my God. But even the Native Americans that are supposedly so offended by this don't care. 90% of Native Americans not offended by Washington Redskins' name. You know what it does? It pulls the facade away, the big curtain. Oh, wow, look, the media's got nothing there. They've got nothing. They've got a 10-year-old on a computer in the back. That's their like hype engine, okay? They've got nothing. They've got no power. It's all just made up junk. They try to control the narrative. You don't have to buy into it. It's like a door-to-door salesman. Hello, can I control your narrative today? You should be upset about this. The Redskins are racist. Agreed? They're like, no soliciting, please. Get away from me. I have my own brain. I don't have to listen to just what you say. All right, we'll be back with Joe Biggs and his U.S. Navy SEAL report. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned. That's right. This is the Alex Jones Show. I'm Anthony Gucciardi, and I'm here with Joe Biggs.
Yes, sir.
And he's got a special report we're going to premiere for the first time here about, so tell us what's about.
So yesterday I had the opportunity to talk to former Navy SEAL Carl Higbie and really interview him about what his book's about, Enemies Foreign and Domestic. He's actually the guy who captured the Butcher of Fallujah, the bad guy that you saw in the movie American Sniper. And then we're also able to talk and discuss about political correctness in the military and how that's really changing special operations and regular ground forces here, because you have these commanders who've kind of been hijacked, taken over by the Obama administration, and made them really weak. And now it's affecting our troops, and eventually it's going to affect our special operations. So let's go ahead and go to that clip. This is an awesome interview. Can't wait for you guys to see it. And welcome to the InfoWars Nightly News. I'm Joe Biggs, and joining me today, former Navy SEAL Carl Higbie. How you doing today, sir?
Hey, thanks for having me back on.
Hey, so I wanted to talk to you more in depth this time about your book, Enemies Foreign and Domestic, a SEAL story.
Did you want to go into the operation or the Butcher of Fallujah first?
Yeah, let's go into the Butcher of Fallujah first. I think that'd be a good one.
All right, so this guy, everybody knows they've seen American Sniper. Scott McEwen, the author of American Sniper, wrote my foreword to this book. And this guy is featured in that movie as the Butcher. Now, he was a bad dude. We've been looking for him for quite some time. One of our officers, our SEAL officers, actually found him, which was miraculous. We surveilled him for a little while. We finally got approval to go get this bad guy, because up to that point, our chain of command had been denying us the ability to go get almost any terrorist we put on the target deck. We found him, went to prosecute him. Flawless operation, kicked in the door in the middle of the night. He had a gun on target. The hero of the op, Matt McCabe, was able to subdue him, and without a shot fired, because you never want to fire a shot because it wakes up the whole neighborhood, and now you're in a big gunfight. And so we got him down, not a scratch on him. We bring him back to base, put him in the Connex box, which was our detention facility, under the supervision of a master at arms, which is an MP, a military police. And he left his post, and during that time, this terrorist, Abid Asham, he bit his lip, as testified by an oral surgeon, spit blood on himself, and claimed we abused him.
Yeah, that kind of stuff happens. I mean, what's going through your mind, though? I mean, you get called out. You find out that you're going to be part of this mission, one of the most wanted men in the Middle East at that time. You know, what's going through your mind? What are your emotions? I mean, your heart's got to be pumping. You've got to be super excited to be part of something like this, to take out someone who has been killing a lot of people, right?
Right, and absolutely, and that was why we actually put a number of attempted operations against this guy in the past, and our chain of command had shot it down. And now we were so 100% sure, we went above our chain of command and submitted this. So it was a great thing to be a part of. I mean, we as a team, we worked incredibly well together. We prosecuted the target. We brought him back without a shot fired. By all intents and purposes, it was a flawless operation.
Now, did you guys ever have Chris Kyle covering you on some of these missions? Did you guys ever have any connection with him at all when you were deployed?
Not this deployment. My first deployment in 2007, we were there at the same time together. So we didn't directly work together on any specific operations, but we worked in the same theater. Yeah, and I'll talk a little bit about the same thing I talk about in my book, is that we were spinning on the tarmac with the helicopters for about 2.5 hours because we actually had a radio problem. The radios weren't working properly. So we were able to jerry-rig something that was good enough to get us off the ground. So we had 3 Blackhawks, or HH-60s. We went out and we inserted in probably about 5 clicks south of the target. Click is a kilometer. And humped our way in there with a couple Iraqis on the team and a couple SEALs, and made it in. We got to a berm, which was outside. I mean, this place was like a fortified compound. It was unbelievable. It looked like it was like a military project administration sort of thing. Berms and lights facing outward all the way around with like what looked to be dug as a moat. So we had to cross through all that, get through the lights. We actually found the one spot where there were no lights, and our point man got us in, very, very well. And then we navigated our way into the target building, which was in the center of a multi-block complex. So we had to go through the entire town, bounding Overwatch, 1 by 1, 2 by 2, just so we wouldn't get spotted or seen, even though it was 2 or 3 in the morning. So we, as we got to the target, we stacked outside the door. I was controlling all the air assets for infill, exfil, and as well as if we needed to call in bombs or call for fire from an AC-130 or a drone or fast movers, whatever it may be. And kicked in the door, came in. Matt McCabe, as I said, the guy who actually apprehended him, he came in the door first in his bedroom. The guy picked up a gun, and Matt was able to wrestle him to the ground before he was able to get off a shot. And from then on, we secured the target, did our search, and we're out of there before anybody knew we were even there.
So I've got a few questions. I mean, we have a military that is changing so quickly right now. We have standards dropping. We have people getting injured from standards dropping. We have the possibility of more people getting injured from standards being dropped in special operations. And the fact that we now have women being brought into combat roles and leadership positions in combat roles like Rangers and things like that. What do you think about the state of our military right now with the regular Army dropping standards, and how that could affect the future dropping of standards in special operations?
Well, I don't understand why they would ever drop standards. The enemy does not drop their standards at all to fight us. So the fact that there are different standards, to me, is just absolutely incredible, because it's, you have to all fight the same war on the same battlefield with the same weapons and the same gear as everyone else. So why are there age standards? Why are there gender standards? The military is not a social experiment. And our senior military leaders may have forgotten this, but the soldier's primary job is to put bullets in bad guys. And if you want to make it a social experiment, go work for the ACLU or the union, or something else that not the military, because it's going to get people killed. And when you have margins that are so razor thin, there's no room to play around with what genders can be in there and what new rules of engagement you can impose. You just got to let a soldier be a soldier, and that's to kill bad guys.
What a lot of people are very interested in SEALs. What was the training like for you? How was BUD/S? How was it going through that experience, and then finally making it to a team, and then getting to that elite level to be able to carry out missions?
Well, I'll tell you, it was such an honor to me. I mean, to be standing among some of the best men this country's ever seen was a real humbling experience. And when I went through BUD/S, I wasn't the biggest, fastest, strongest, or best guy there, but I was part of a great team. And being with those guys elevated me immensely. And I think we all fed off each other. But to be able to stand and say, like, I did that is truly a humbling experience. The way I see it is I was getting paid a fairly decent salary to work out on the beach in Coronado with a bunch of my friends. I mean, you don't get much better than that. I mean, sure, there were times where it was awful and miserable, but quitting is never. I was a high school and college wrestler, and most guys were, high caliber collegiate athletes at one point or another. And nobody who ever made it through, I don't think, had any reservations or ever thoughts of quitting ever.
Well, let's get into some more of the book. At the beginning of the book, I like how you kind of put down your oath again to your enlistment, the oath you took while you were in the military, and showing people when they read this book that you still have a continuation of that oath now that you're out, you're a civilian. Tell us about that, what that means to you, the Constitution.
Well, I think when you take an oath to join the military, it's an oath not only to your country and team and teammate, but it's an oath to yourself. And I see the local and the recent erosion of rights by local government and federal government upon ordinary citizens. I mean, think about this, Joe. 250 years ago, we fought the Revolutionary War over a 2% tax hike in a breakfast beverage, tea. Okay, you think our founding fathers would have stood for any of the crap that's going on now coming from this administration, forced to buy health insurance, highest number of people out of the federal workforce, yet 50% of the country receiving some sort of entitlement benefit on the backs of the others who work? They wouldn't have stood for this one bit. And, your oath of enlistment goes to the country and Constitution, even beyond your military service. And if you're not standing up for what your country was founded on, you're part of the problem.
Exactly. President Barack Obama actually came out today and said, under his time as the president, the country has gotten better. And I highly disagree with that. Well, I want to get more into what we kind of talked to briefly in this first segment earlier about the changing of the military. We have 3 deaths linked to recent Navy SEAL training classes. And my fear is due to this entire PC nature that we have right now, the fact that we have a leadership now that is actually following this political correct lifestyle all of a sudden. I have a fear that there's going to end up being a drop in standards in SEAL training, in SF training, as far as Green Berets, Rangers, things like that. And that's going to affect our future missions when we try to go out after these bad guys. Because like you said earlier, the enemy doesn't drop their standards, but for some reason, our leadership is having us do this. Now, why do you think some of these deaths are happening? And do you think that it could eventually get to a point where they might start dropping standards for these elite soldiers?
Well, there was a phase where they did drop standards in BUD/S, and they've since corrected it for the most part. But what's wrong now is you have a politically correct push within the military, and a lot of good SEALs are getting out. They just can't put up with the rules of engagement anymore. They can't put up with the BS. That's not what they joined for. So they're losing good guys, and Congress and other military leaders have mandated more SEALs be put in. So what you have is while great men and women, no doubt, they're being pushed into training now that maybe they shouldn't be in. Maybe the screening process has gotten slightly more lenient. Maybe the initial screening process should be more stringent as it was when I went through. It was almost impossible to qualify for these things with all the tests. I mean, if you had flat feet, you couldn't get in. Now they've relaxed not necessarily the physical standard, but the criteria in order to make the cut. And then what's happening is these guys, still great men, women, are going through training, and now they're getting hurt in training. They're getting and there are some statistics that support the opposite of this, but I mean, as you're seeing in the press, guys are dying in training. And the fact is that these people aren't screened as well as they used to be, and they're slipping through the cracks. And the problem is also, once you graduate the program, sometimes, occasionally, they're getting to the team and they're getting further screened, just like as everybody else has, and they're not making the cut there either. So you're still getting the same number of SEALs to a deployable state. You're just losing far more because of politics.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous when you think about it, how they do that stuff. And I mean, yeah, people are going to die in training because, when I was watching the documentary last night about Navy SEALs, they wanted to get that training as close to combat scenarios as possible. That way, when you actually have to go and engage in that atmosphere, that you would be at that tier 1 level ready to operate, it's unfortunate it does happen, but I want to get your opinion on something else. Air Force General is first woman at top tier U.S. Combat Command. This has been a big topic across the country the past few weeks. Michael Savage, I've seen it on Fox, other stations as well, where people are concerned about women being put in combat roles and then also without any combat experience, taking these leadership positions as well and leading elite soldiers into these combat missions. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that the issue here is you have a woman now in charge of a combat unit, but women haven't been allowed in combat for long enough for her to have the experience to run a combat operation. So I think that it's putting our troops at a detriment here. And look, you have the don't ask, don't tell policy, which destabilized a large number of people in the military. I mean, if I was commander in chief today, I would not reinstitute the Don't Ask, Don't Tell because it would add more instability.